Did you know that there are an estimated 3 billion gamers in the world? The US gaming market is valued at $106 billion, more than the US movie industry. When you think gamer, you might think a teenager in a dark room, hunched over a keyboard or screaming at a brightly lit screen. That's how some gamers might look, but 79% of them are actually adults. The majority of us game, whether it be on a console or on our phones. So let's talk about gaming and how it has evolved over generations and its impact on the brain. What games did our grandparents play, and how do those compare to what young people play today?
We know that social connection is important for good brain health, and that throughout time and across cultures, gaming has served as a way to connect. Has digital gaming taken away from that? How can we find commonalities between the past and digital gaming, and how can we game safely without, quote, rotting our brains? First, we'll talk with members of our Delray Beach community, some older, some younger, about their experiences with gaming, especially digital gaming. Then we'll bring in an expert to answer our questions and probably your questions too about gaming and the brain. So sit in, listen up, and join us.
Today, our community's wisdom will be shared by Emmanuel Dupree Jackson, the founding director of EJS Project. He hails from The Set in Delray Beach, Florida, with a lifelong dedication to working with children and teens, particularly at risk youth, igniting their inner strength and potential, driven by his vision. The Emmanuel Jackson Senior or EJS Project was conceived. Now its thriving ninth year, the EJS project has grown into one of Palm Beach County's fastest growing and most impactful charities. Recognized for its innovative grassroots approach, it remains dedicated to nurturing local talent and empowering the leaders of tomorrow. Renowned for loyalty, determination, and selflessness, Dupree is a revered community leader, activist, and social innovator in his hometown. Recognizing the impact of systemic racism on marginalized communities, Dupree actively challenges systems and advocates for equal opportunities. His unwavering belief in community driven sustainable solutions fuels his tireless advocacy. Currently residing in Delray Beach with his wife Janae and their two daughters Jaslyn and Kalia, Dupree continues to champion youth empowerment and community advancement through the EJS project. Welcome, Mr. Dupree.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for that amazing introduction.
You're so welcome. I'm just going to jump right in. Do you mind giving us a reflection and maybe telling us a little bit about your childhood and what games were like for you growing up?
Of course. I would love to. It's just my mind spinning. I don't know where to start and what part to jump in at. But I guess it's worth saying that my upbringing, my household, I was exposed to a lot earlier. So call them grown. I was a little grown. They call the girls spaz. I was just above, ahead of my time. I'll say that. That's how I was raised in my mom's household. She very much didn't shelter me. She always let me know what was going on, talk to me. I won't say like an adult. She was always a loving mother, but she didn't talk to me like a child. I'll put it like that. So it wasn't too much that was a secret. Total opposite. I did live in a single parent household, but when I was with my father, totally different. I was his baby. He was strict. He was stern. Had to be in the house or near the yard before the street lights came on, that type of upbringing. So it varied, but I just have nothing but fond memories of my upbringing. As it relates to games, I love this topic. Like literally, if you ask friends of mine who still friends today, they still remember like, 90, 89, 90, 91. I was one of the only kids in my neighborhood with the Atari system. So, my mom living room used to be packed up playing Pac-Man and Frogger and dang, I forget
Atari
the other one. You
2600.
shoot the
You had the joystick.
yeah. I just like really fond memories of everybody coming over, waiting their turn to try to play that game. It's like I don't know, I was popular. I was the man because I had the Atari, so it brings back really really good memories.
Well, I was just gonna ask what did gaming mean to you growing up, but you already started talking about it. So keep
Yeah.
sharing. Growing up, you had the Atari, you were the kid on the block, everybody lined up to wait their turn to play. And then what?
So we got to include growing up because I want to say I became a real adult when I became a dad. So like growing up, it went from when I was really younger to Atari, then it went into the Nintendo, then it went into the Super Nintendo, then Sega Genesis. I never it was something else came like GameCube, Dreamcast, some other stuff came in between. I skipped that, but I definitely got the PlayStation when it first came out. Even to this day, I still when the kids are here, they're real gamers. They got Roblox and all type of other stuff,
Mhm.
but when it comes to anything sports related, Madden, 2K, I still jump on the stick because I'm still a gamer at heart. I just, with being an adult and having responsibilities, life be lifing. I don't have the time to give to it as much as I would like. It's still a good space for me. I love it when I'm on the joystick. I love it when I'm competing, playing games with students here at the center. So yeah, I'm still a gamer at heart.
Nice, nice, nice. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course, of course.
Wow, Dupree, it's really cool hearing you talk about growing up and the old school games is how the young ones would say, right? That's what they would call the digital games from back in the day. So I am wondering what influenced you to add gaming as a component for EJS? Because I know you just mentioned that you do play with your students at the EJS project. Why was that important for you to have gaming as part of what you provide, the services that you provide for the teens?
Oh yeah, I love that question. I think it's really the obvious answer. Most gamers, usually when you think of gamers, you think of somebody home, comfortable in their pajamas,
Mm-hmm.
headphones, or in a gaming chair, just relax in their zone, vibing. Like they can just sometimes they be locked in for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours with no food, no bathroom break, no shower. It's, it's one of those things that's easy for people, not just kids, to get
Mm.
lost in. Especially the real gamers. I call the real gamers the people that play like mission type games. What was the game that was popular 3 or 4 years ago, PJ?
Fortnite.
Fortnite. Like, yeah, it's like things like that, Call of Duty, those people be locked in for long periods of time. They have competition and friends and groups from all over the world now. So if I'm gonna I always thought if I'm gonna have a teen center, it has to, have some of the things that kid naturally like and like to do. And
Mm-hmm.
video games is definitely one of those. And PJ is one of the students here at EJS, and he'll tell you there's not a day or time, no matter if we only got a 5, 10 minute break to stop by EJS, there's not a time where that system or that TV doesn't come on when kids are here. So it's definitely one of the most popular attractions here at EJS. That and the laptops, the MacBooks, and anywhere they can play Roblox. So it's a critical component. Even my approach to helping, mentoring, shaping kids is really getting to know the real true them,
Mm-hmm.
and you're able to do that a lot by just sitting and observing them watch games, how competitive they are, how they deal with a loss, how they are when they winning on the street, their response, their behaviors, their language, all that is a good tales for me to go off when helping to mold them and give them some, direction. So yeah, gaming systems are vital, especially now. Shoot, kids can make money off of it. So, I don't want to hinder them by getting their hours up.
Yep, that's for sure. So that's digital gaming on a computer or a console. But what do you have on your phone? What do you play on your phone? And what does it mean for you on your mind? Is it a calming influence, a break from the day, or are you old school and you don't really do any games on your phone?
You know what? It was a scratch there that I was old school, didn't really do stuff on my phone. But the last, I'll say 4 or 5 months, I've been playing a lot of a game called Q Blocks. That's just because I Googled like mind strengthening games. Because if I wanted to play a game, I wanted to be challenging, I wanted to help. I play a game with help with I'm forgetting. I'm trying to look for the app right now. It eludes me. But the puzzle, the word puzzle game, that was popular a while ago. I still play that. So those are only kind of games I
Oh, the
play.
Waddle. You mean Waddle?
Yes, yes, that though. So those are games I play now. So I feel like when I'm playing those and it's giving me like mind brain exercises that I'm doing
Hmm.
something constructive. So that's how I trick myself.
Wow, that's amazing. So thank you so much
Of
for
course, of
sharing
course.
your awesome experience and the amazing, amazing work, incredible your work you're doing in the community. So thank you for being with us tonight.
No problem at all. Thank you guys for having me. I love the topic.
Thanks again, Dupree, and you're welcome. You're welcome back anytime.
I look forward to it. I really do.
The next community guest that I'm going to introduce is Mr. Patrick PJ Madison. He is thrilled to be on this podcast. PJ has been in the acting field ever since he could talk. Now, at age 15, Patrick has become older, smarter, funnier, and even a better actor. Ever since birth, Patrick has had a dynamic approach to theater, mastering his role and others while simultaneously supporting others behind the scenes. Patrick was introduced to performing arts at St. John Missionary Baptist Church while participating in the youth ministry and the fine arts ministry. Patrick has found himself passionate about theater and stage performance, choosing it as an intense focus for his expression. He leaves it all on the stage. His dream is to become a Broadway star, and it's guided by him knowing his talent is God's gift to him, and he's grateful for each opportunity. Patrick has performed in stage productions with Plamosa School of the Arts, Bach Middle School of the Arts, Acts of Life Productions, and now Dreyfus School of the Arts, his dream high school. While his goal is to reach Broadway, he has aspirations for national television and movie productions. His father, Patrick Madison, may God rest his soul in heaven, always told him, "What God gave you is a gift, son, and you must use it or he'll take it from you." So, Dad, I'm using my gift, says Patrick. May God be glorified.
Well, welcome, Patrick. It is such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. And if I may just let everybody know, I absolutely enjoy watching your work on stage. Since you and our son Jordan are in the same school, you are an amazing actor. I have to say that. I have to let the whole world know. Watch out for this guy. You will be seeing Oscars and Emmys and all that good stuff in the future. So, Patrick, how old were you when you started gaming online? And what do you enjoy about it?
Well, hello. It's great to be here. And to answer your question, I first started gaming at like a very young age, like around 5. But I started like really online gaming, like with other people, when I was about 11.
Hmm.
That was like when I wanted to like play Fortnite and get on the game with friends. And it was a really fun time for me. And then I found out that my friends played, so I played with them. And it was just a real great experience.
With the gaming. So, did you play Minecraft?
I did. I wasn't a big Minecraft person, but every now and then I might get on it and like build something.
Yeah.
But it's a really relaxing game if you just want to hang out by yourself, hang out with friends. So, I feel like for me I'm not a Minecraft person, but I would get
Hmm.
on it every now and then.
Yeah, yeah, for relaxation. So you just mentioned about playing the game so that you could hang out with your friends online. So I wonder, how do you feel gaming has affected your relationships with friends and family? What has been the influence of gaming with friends, especially online, and even affecting your friendships offline, your relationships offline?
Well, most of my friendships, well, not most, almost all of them started
Hmm.
offline and then gradually increased to online. So
Yeah.
I feel like having that offline relationship strengthened us even more
Hmm.
because we knew each other. We knew we were in the same school, we had the same classes. And then when we got introduced to online gaming, we were all like, "Oh, we'll get on the game at like this certain time, and we'll play until this certain time. We'll meet up on the weekends to play." I feel like that coordination made us like strengthen our bond even further because we were able to plan out our entire day or like maybe like a couple hours, a couple minutes to just be together and play the game. And even though it wouldn't be like we wouldn't go to each other's houses,
Mm-hmm.
we would still be able to talk to each other, and it would be like they were right next to us because it felt so real, and it just felt
Yeah.
amazing to be hearing your friend's voice in the microphone or in the headphones. I feel like everything about online gaming back then strengthened friendships.
Strengthened your friendships. That's really cool. So let me ask you, with the guys that you meet or the friends that you meet online, have you had an online gaming friendship become a real life friendship? Like you got to know them in real life off of online gaming?
Yes, I have.
Cool.
There was one friend that I met online, and it was my best friend's cousin. And every time my best friend wasn't on, I would play with him because he was always on, and we would just end up being on there for hours and hours on end, having fun. So I feel like the online friends and real friends, they are, because you can meet real friends in real life and they have their own plans, but online friends, they'll always like join you, they'll always be with you because they can always show up saying, hey, this person's online, and you can just join their game instantly. But with real friends, if you want to hang out with them, you got to coordinate, like make sure your calendars are set together, make sure you guys agree on the same place. So I feel like online gaming, it's easier to see your friends without actually technically meeting them in real life.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you say that because that's what I've observed too with our Jordan. So, as you're describing how online gaming has affected your friendships and your relationships, how do you feel it's affected your mind, how you feel about yourself, and how you feel about your family? What do you think about that digital gaming and your mind?
Really depends on what type of game you're playing, because most of the games I play, they're very like single player, story driven based games. But I know the games that all my friends play, like Jordan, he plays like Call of Duty, he'll play Fortnite, he'll most of my friends are on Fortnite, Call of Duty, and they are because they're in the mindset of I gotta win. I can't stop until I win. So it's really affecting their mental health. That's why I stopped playing online games so much, because I started to feel that mentality where I can't stop until I win, and then it got very unhealthy for me. So that's why I've like kept it. That's why I stuck it to single player games, like story
Yeah.
driven games, because you can always, even if you lose, you can still bounce back, and you don't have to deal with your friends like criticizing you or people online criticizing you, because that's also a big part of it, like cyberbullying.
Yeah.
Cyberbullying is like a big problem in today's
Hmm.
gaming society, because instead of treating everyone with like respect, saying, "Oh, you tried your best, you did good, good game, good game,
Yeah.
good game," we want to criticize people and instead point out their flaws and what they did wrong. And it's
Hmm.
not just the people you're playing against, it's sometimes the people you're with.
Hmm.
And I feel like I've dealt with that before. I know sometimes if I was in the moment, I would do that as well. But like I said, I've grown out of playing online most of the time. So I
Yeah.
usually play offline.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, thank you so much for mentioning that and bringing in the concept and the truth about the cyberbullying. And I think tying also to the trash talking, because we hear that in the games, online gaming community. So I think, thank you for sharing about how you've taken care of your own mental health in this, in being able to uh, take breaks and separate yourself to a single player versus games that are making you, or rather making you have negative emotions about yourself because of the being driven to win, the competition to win, and the competition to trash talk or cyberbully. And thank you so much for sharing about how your digital friends, they're real people, by the way, guys. Whenever we talk about digital friends, they are real. These are not AI robots online. And so thank you, PJ, for sharing about your digital friends and how much they mean to you, and the fact that you can hang out with them when real life, in-person friends, it might be harder to coordinate with them. It's been so much fun talking to you, and your wisdom, hearing your wisdom tonight, as you're actually teaching some of the young people how to pull back and be able to take care of their own health. Thank you so much, PJ, for being on tonight. It was a pleasure talking.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
And now we have with us Dr. Steve Arcidiacono from Boys Town. Welcome, Dr. Steve. I would like to read a little bit of your bio. Dr. Steve Arcidiacono is a Florida licensed psychologist specializing in behavioral pediatrics and cognitive behavioral therapy with youth and their families. Dr. Steve received his PhD in clinical psychology from Nova Southeastern University and has provided behavioral health services to South Florida families for over a decade. He's currently a staff psychologist with Boys Town, South Florida, a nonprofit organization, as a part of their behavioral health clinic. He also regularly provides community presentations on various topics, including sleep hygiene, healthy gaming, social media, anxiety, ADHD, and parenting through the pandemic. Welcome, Dr. Steve.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
You're so welcome. And I'm just going to jump right into the question. So, we've talked a lot about video games and just gaming over generations and how that has transitioned and changed. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on the impact that gaming does have on the brain? And how can we maintain good brain health while we're gaming?
Oh my gosh, I could probably talk for about an hour just from that one question. I would say that to me, one thing I try to think about is the way that games evolved over time, and how they kind of originated. If you think back in the day, we're talking 40 years ago now, where games were primarily accessed in arcades, they were created so that people would continue to put quarters in. That was the idea. If you played a bit and you enjoyed the game and you felt like you were doing really well and you wanted to keep playing, you had to put the quarters in. So the game makers had that in mind when they were designing the games. They wanted you to feel like you were having fun, like new and exciting things were happening, and then they wanted you to want to continue playing them. And then over time, they evolved so that we were able to access them at home. And then over time, they've evolved so that we were able to connect with other people while playing them. And so now they are just such a different monster than they used to be. And monster may be strong, some of them may be monsters. But I would say that what we really need to do is think about balance, think about prioritization of the right things, and making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. I try to think about how I explain this to my kids. I have my own kids too. People aren't always doing things just for you. Like they have a reason on the other side. So if you're playing games, you need to understand that there are people designing these games who want you to be doing things like playing them more often and paying money. And that's part of the thing you need to keep in mind. But I would say, if I was to summarize all of that, is keep in mind that you need to prioritize yourself. There are certain basics that you need to take care of, like sleeping and eating and spending time with people and exercise. And if you're meeting those priorities, you can protect yourself from some of the aversive effects that can come from excessive gaming.
Gotcha. That's something to really remember, that there's a whole science behind how to keep people connected to games. And I completely forgot about that whole putting quarters
Mm-hmm.
in the machines. That's a throwback. Thank you for that reminder.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that leads me to my next question. Like, how do we bridge an understanding among generations? I mean, we're talking about putting quarters in the machine, and then we're also talking about digital gaming. So, how do we foster that connection between the digital world and just generational old school gaming?
I love that question. I work with families primarily, and a lot of times I'm encouraging parents as step one to engage.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need to recognize that you just don't always know. and you might think you know, but you probably don't. And so, if you're not familiar with the games and how they work and what your child is doing on them, you need to engage with them. And it's a different experience than what it was growing up. I'll give you a prime example, which is that a lot of parents in the past several years tell me that they're frustrated because they can't get their child to step away from the game and go do something that they want them to do. They want them to take out the garbage or something like that. And I believe that's out of ignorance on the parent's part of not recognizing what's happening. Because the parent, from their experience, like if it was me, I grew up playing the old school Super Nintendo Mario, and I could just pause it. I just press pause and I just walk away and I go do a thing and I come back. And if that's what I grew up with, and I believe that that's what my child was doing, then they should be able to do that too. But the vast majority of games right now are not that. They are online, they are playing with other people, they're playing with their friends, they're chatting with them at that moment, whether they're playing as a team and coordinating and connecting and trying to solve some objective together, or whether they're competitive and they've been surviving, competing against 100 other people and they're one of the last survivors, and they've been committing this time to the game, and then you say go step away and take out the garbage right now. It's a very different experience on the gamer end. So I would encourage parents to try to be open-minded and listen to your child and what they're saying and what they're doing. I use an example sometimes of, you probably wouldn't pull them off of the soccer field during a soccer game and go get them to do a task. Like you would understand that they would be upset if you just pulled them out in the fourth quarter of a football game. That would be upsetting to them. So it's just a very different experience. I encourage parents to engage with it first, try to be non-judgmental and just listen and understand and ask questions. Kids will explain it all day. They'll love to talk about their hobbies and their joys. And so it's an opportunity to connect, kind of understand what their experience is. And if you understand it better, then you'll be able to communicate around it better.
Wow, thank you so much for saying that. And you're actually talking to me. Both Kenya and I have sons who game. And when you said the example you used about the soccer field is so profound for me because our kids have also played soccer. And you described exactly what happens in the house because they're in the middle of playing one particular one in high school. And we're like, go do the dishes. And they're like, oh, give me whatever, 10 more minutes. And it took a while for us to realize why they're saying, give me 10 minutes. Because I'm like, just get up, go do the dishes. So thank you for using that example that we can't just pull them off the soccer field, that we need to be sensitive as parents and realize it's the same as an ongoing live game for them.
What I would say is that if you tell them to do something, they actually should listen to you and do it right away. But as the parent, it's partially your responsibility to be familiar enough with the games to know
Hmm.
what kind of effect you're going to cause when you say that. But I do teach kids that even if you're in the middle of something, if your parents tell you, "Hey, it's time to go do this other thing," you do have to transition off. Just to me as a parent, I want to be a reasonable person. If I look at the game and I'm familiar enough with it, and I'm using the example of these battle royale type games where you're surviving and
Hmm.
competing against 100 other people at the same time. And if I looked at the screen and there's only 5 people left, I know that they've spent the last 20 minutes gathering items and competing and maybe communicating with their teammates and all these things. And so I would probably just watch it. I would probably just watch the last few minutes of the game, knowing that it's not going to last that much longer. That's when I would encourage them to transition. Similar to if they were watching a movie or something, and I know that there's only 5 minutes left, I would probably try to be a reasonable person, wait until the 5 minutes are over, and then tell them. However, if I'm the parent and I say, hey, it's time to turn it off, I do try to encourage families to just have that be the deal, that once the parent says it, that does have to happen. So that's why
Hmm.
I'm saying we got
Hmm.
to put the onus on the parent to realize what effect they're going to cause and try to be a reasonable person and choose the communication in a way that's going to be less likely to cause that explosion.
Yeah. So, tagging on to that description, what are some of the safeguards that you feel that we can put around the kids or our gamers to help them handle strong emotions, especially raging?
Mhm.
What are some of the safeguards and how can we help them navigate that? Because if you are with a gamer in a house, you know about the concept and what happens when they lose in a game or when they're trash talking each other. So what are some of the safeguards so that we're not doing total deprivation? We're letting them play, but we're also not encouraging behavior that might be harmful to themselves?
Yeah, that's such a good question too. What I would say is that it's similar to anything else that you do as a parent, where you're trying to teach.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I usually say when I work with families: is that parenting is teaching. And so I love the way you frame that, of not total abstinence and just barring them and saying you're not allowed to do this, because then they won't learn anything, and they're going to eventually be playing the games. So I would rather have them learn how to cope with it in a healthy manner. I have a 5-year-old, and I don't let her play a lot of games, but we've been playing Mario Kart. That's been the entry level. Let's try this. And I also have a 3-year-old, and believe it or not, I swear this is 100% true. The 3-year-old beat the 5-year-old, and she wasn't even like playing the game. She was barely touching the controller. I don't know if the controller knew that she was 3 or something, but whatever it was, she miraculously won. And the 5-year-old was trying very hard. So she was reasonably upset. She was looking at her sister saying, "How did she beat me? This is," and she was upset. It felt like it was unfair, or it felt, she was coping with a loss.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was trying to take that as a teaching opportunity. I'm not mad at her for being upset. And, she's 5, so she's not cursing. But if it
Mm-hmm.
was a 10-year-old, she might have. And so what I want to do is almost teach good sportsmanship in that context
Mm-hmm.
of how to handle a loss, what to say. And that's literally what I did. She went and she was upset. I had her calm down a little bit on her own. We stepped away from the game. I talked to her about it, and I talked basically about how to lose gracefully, right? What do you say when you lose if you're frustrated, or how do you handle that? And so I taught her a couple options, and I had her choose. And she went with, "I'll get you next time." That was going to be her line. "All right, I'll get you next time." And so it was sort of that, like, "All right, I'm not going to let this get me down. I'm going to keep going."
I love that.
Yeah.
What I would say is, instead of barring them from it, maybe temporarily, if their emotions are really high, they need to step away and calm down. But what I would say is most important is teach them what they should do, teach them
Mm-hmm.
the healthy way of overcoming that. Or if people are saying toxic things to them, there are ways that you can report those, usually in the online games. If they're under the age of 13 or so, most modern games have some settings that you can put on that could limit the chat, or that could, put stars over any inappropriate terms. One of the games that I was playing was hilarious. If you typed in something that was really toxic,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they knew it, but the algorithm that they have figured that out, and it would, in the chat, change it to something nice. Like, you could not. You would say something hateful, and if you sent it, it would just change it into like, "Wow, you did a great job tonight. I love your effort." And it would
That's
just.
really good.
That's interesting.
So there are usually in most big popular modern games, there are, if you're really concerned, there are settings that you could toggle on to protect your kids from some of the harmful stuff. The most harmful stuff coming from other people, believe it or not the content in the game.
Yeah, that's true. Which actually, this is one of the questions that just came up as you were talking about handling the chat. Because the chat, a lot of the gamers are on the game, but they're also on Discord or Twitch chatting along. And sometimes parents don't have access to the chats until maybe something major happens, and then you might find out. So maybe talk to us, maybe just briefly about that, how to handle the chats, since you brought it up. And that's a really good point about the chatting.
I think, to me, it depends a little bit on age.
Yeah.
So younger ages, I would probably just set some parental controls to disable the chat. I probably would not let kids engage with, especially strangers,
Hmm.
even in child friendly games like Minecraft or Roblox or some of those big popular games. There are some people on there that could be toxic or predatory or all sorts of things that you wouldn't want. So I would probably, at younger ages, just put the age restrictions and just say they're not ready. They're not ready for that yet. You can also usually toggle some restrictions so that they can only chat with friends. You might be able to do that. I would also say that as they get older, into like teenagehood, you might try to have some level of trust that's earned in the beginning when they're first doing it or they're first on Discord. I hate to say this, I would not trust them very much.
Hmm.
I will go ahead and say that I'm very confident that when my kids reach that age, I will be reading their chats. And maybe not every single one, but I want them to know that I absolutely can. And I absolutely have a right to do that. And as they earn my trust, if I look at the chats and there's nothing that I think is potentially harmful or dangerous or anything like that, then I will most likely start to fade how often I'm going to check those. And as long as they're earning my trust more and more, there's a slow but sure handoff into you're independent now. I trust you. You can do this. But in the beginning, I think it's not a violation of trust to be checking on those things to make sure that they're being safe, and then teach to something if there is a problem that you come across. Something like Discord, you have to be very careful. There are a lot of just user generated content. You could post pretty much anything on an app like that. So I would be very cautious in the beginning, especially.
Wow. That's quite a bit of very useful information. And everything that you said is fitting right in with our title of An Ounce of Prevention is Worth a Pound of Cure, because so much of what you said is important for parents to hear. It's important for activity leaders to hear, even in community settings, if folks are playing games with friends outside of like a parent's view. These are just things that I think anybody who is supervising youth that might be playing games or just trying to wrap their head around what's happening. You've given us some really, really useful information, and we're appreciating that today. I want to give a thank you note to our co-host Julia Sana, our licensed mental health counselor and marriage and family therapist, as our co-host. Our guest for this episode, Emmanuel Dupree Jackson of EJS Project, Patrick PJ Madison, and of course you, Dr. Steve. Thank you for your time and your support. And in the next episode, we're going to be discussing new versus old school parenting. And so I really think that you guys should stay tuned and really take some notes from this episode to make sure you bring it into episode number 2. But thank you, Julia. Thank you, Dr. Steve. And thank you again to our guests from EJS Project, Dupree Jackson and PJ Madison.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Steve.